Hello, good morning, everyone. Just want to check if everyone can hear me. You can send a message if you can hear me. Okay, perfect. Thank you very much. We will start just a minute. Okay, we will start now. Thank you very much. Good morning, everyone. Welcome to the Cubin webinar on understanding China deeper from business culture to its innovation enhancement. My name is Marta Octavia, Cubin team from SPI Portugal, and I am the moderator of today's webinar. This webinar is part of the virtual training courses and one of the main tools from the Cubin project. It is a platform that is designed to help European SMEs and companies with business and innovations in emerging markets. Cubin was set up by a consortium of experts in the field of cultural differences with the involvement of SME support and innovation agencies. The project partners of Cubin are Hofstede Insights and SPI. Cubin is fully financed by the European Commission. For further detail, Cubin stands for Cultural Understanding for Business Expansion and Innovation. The aim of the Cubin platform is to give you the tools you need to prepare yourself and your business for operating in an unfamiliar business environment. This platform focuses on a selection of emerging economies which have been defined as within the scope of the project, including a country like China, Brazil, Mexico, Southeast Asia, and any other. So Cubin provides a lot of.
I'm not quite sure. He mentioned, oh, the precision you should,
Apologize for that. Let me continue. So Cubin provides many tools to help your business to go in this new market by providing self-assessment tools to test your readiness, an online library to help you learn more about the culture and custom of your target country, and then the possibility to attend a webinar session like what we have right now, and then the option to ask questions to culture and innovation expert. So if you have any question regarding business culture in general or specific question in the innovation enhancement in the emerging market, feel free to contact and get in touch with us. All right, so for today's webinar, the participants will have a chance to learn more about the innovation landscape in China, especially in terms of the existing supports, for example, strategy, initiatives, programs, funding, etc., to encourage and initiate innovation among Chinese companies and businesses, and how this will attract European companies to consider on doing business in China. This webinar will have duration of approximately 1 hour, including the question and answer. So after listening to the 2 sessions from our expert, please bear in mind if you have any questions, you can give it at the end of the session. And our guest speaker today will be Mr. Xia Wenhuan from Beijing International Co-Incubation, that already with us, and also Mr. Richard Deng from SPI China. To give you a little bit background of our speakers, Mr. Xia Wenhuan is the Executive Secretary of the Beijing BNR International Co-Incubation. It is an independent membership-based, non-profit and non-governmental network with the mission of connecting the incubation service providers together and facilitating their partnership. Previously, Mr. Shah was the managing director of the International Technology Commercialization, or CCPIT CIECI, where he led an international technology transfer team and managed international innovation zones throughout China. Mr. Xia Wenhuan works with local governments to facilitate international technologies and startups to the Chinese market, as well as bring Chinese companies or investors to the global market, including Europe. And then our second presenter is Mr. Richard Deng. He is the Chief Representative Officer of SPI China since 2005. Mr. Richard Deng is responsible for the activities within the Beijing SPI office, interacting on a daily basis with the offices in Portugal and Europe. Mr. Richard Deng works with a wide range of European SMEs in developing their business opportunities in China, including the promotion of investment in China, promotion of business cooperations, and so forth. He has more than 5 years of valuable experience with European Commission projects, in particular projects that aim to foster EU-China cooperation and policy dialogue in terms of trade and science, technology, and innovation. Being based in China, he has excellent knowledge and experience of wide range of Chinese sectors as well. So Mr. Richard Deng will give us the overview of the business culture in China. So without further ado, I will start session, which is the innovation enhancement in China. How can European companies benefit from it? That will be delivered by Mr. Xia Wenhuan.
Hello?
Yes.
Hello?
I will show the slide. Okay, Mr. Xia, the floor is yours.
Okay, thank you. So thank you, moderator, and I'm Xia from Beijing, China. And very happy to join this webinar to share with my experience and insights with all the participants here. And so, oh, hey. How can I
Okay.
control? Yes, great. Okay. First of all, let's talk about what is China's national innovation ecosystem. Actually, in the past 40 years, since reform and opening up of China, the China's national innovation ecosystem has changed from an independent innovation towards a global open innovation. That means the China's innovation ecosystem is open to all the participants and the partners from all over the world. So I think that will be a very good opportunities for all the actors from both academic and the industrial sectors from all over the world to join the innovation ecosystem. There is a whole support system for innovation and main actors from academic research clusters, science parks, business incubators, industrial and venture investors. So that means if European actors would like to join the China's innovations ecosystem and be benefited, so that would be very critical approach to have a local partner, whatever partner. It could be an academic partner or research partner or science park or incubator partner or even you can work with a local venture capital together. Actually, China has been actively implementing new measures to develop its science and technology innovation, both at the national level or and the regional level. We see different initiatives, programs, plans, incentives, which are open to international partners in the recent years. Okay, the next. Uh, at the China, at the national level, we see some main support schemes for international collaboration, like ISTCP, is International Science and Technology Cooperation Program, and the National Technology Transfer Initiatives, and the Torch Program, and the Key Technology Program, and blah blah blah. So I just give you more details about some of them. First of all, is the national SNT Cooperation Program, and this program is launched by most since 2001. The objective is to support Chinese scientists in international research activities, and together with its international organizations can be eligible partners. It covers the international cooperation projects launched under the China's multilateral and bilateral S&T agreements with other countries. So this program integrates the resource for international cooperation under the major national science and technology programs like 863 and 973. There are two sub-programs under this program: the Special Funds Program and the Bilateral S&T Cooperation Program between the governments. And the next one is the National Technology Transfer Initiatives. China will finish building the foundation of its national technology transfer system by 2020, so next year, and release a complete version of national technology transfer initiatives by 2025. So this initiatives aims to facilitate the innovation and economic development across the regions, help helps the scientific research commercialized commercialized and transform China into a science and technology powerhouse. We know technology transfer is not a major part of the evaluation process for scientists looking for promotion. Publishing scientist papers gets more emphasis. The outlines of this initiative encourage the universities to focus more on technology transfers and motivates the scientists to think how their research can benefit the public and the industrial sector. The national technology transfer system will facilitate cooperation and investment across the regions, disciplines, and markets. And at these initiatives, and we see many international approaches because we know in the past years I was experienced many different approaches with different partners and actors under these initiatives. The participants of these initiatives, they are very eager. They are very eager to have the international collaboration to help them to conduct the technology transfer, both bring in and go out. So, okay, the next slide. In the recent years, we see, no, sorry. Next one, the last one, the previous one. Yes. Actually, in the recent years, we see some new trends of China innovation ecosystem. Sorry, it's not this one. L- Last one, the previous one. No, 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 not this one. Sorry. Okay, okay.
This one.
The next one. Next slide. The next slide. Yes. In the recent years, we see some new trends of China national innovation ecosystem. Despite, this the national eco innovation system has very strong driving force and a clear research objective. But the shortage of basic research is still an obstacle for sustainable innovation. So we see many Chinese universities make international cooperation in access to receive external knowledge and compensate for their lack of basic research flows. The more the more prestigious are the organizations, the more likely is cooperation with foreign countries, like some CAS, like some research institute under CAS. They are very actively to work with the international organizations. So these institutions become an important source of the introduction of external knowledge. So I think that will be a very good opportunity for the international organizations to join the China national innovation ecosystem. And also, the more infrastructure support for STI can be expected in the coming years, following a regional approach and innovation clusters, science parks, and incubators. The Chinese government has been investing STI infrastructure through the opening of international collaboration programs. Some of the initiatives are being taken by the governments aiming to promote the international partnership between the international science parks and its Chinese science parks or incubators. So in that case, some organizations, some clusters, and some associations, we can work. I mean, some European actors, they can work with Chinese science parks and the counterparts. So that's the new trends. The new trends means at the basic research level, if the European research organizations, they will be able to work with China's top universities and top research organizations. And at the science park and the cluster level, as an European, science parks or some clusters, they will be able to work with the counterparts in China. So in this context, we see some programs and some special incentives will be able to cover these two kind of approaches. Okay, the next slide. Yes, I want to give you a few examples. The first example is Airbus example. Airbus China has set up its innovation center in the late 2017s. Airbus set up its China Innovation Center in Shenzhen. The Shenzhen, it's a dynamic, power region in China. And this center of Airbus is the second global innovation center. Their key domains is UAM, electrification, connectivity, influx experience, and some advanced materials manufacturing. So the Shenzhen Airbus Center organized the different, seminars and the workshops and the demo days. I took part in uh, one demo day in Shenzhen. At the demo day, Airbus China, they invited different startups, I mean China startups, join and to pitch its interests and its investment and the global technology sourcing business units. As a result, a few of proof of concept startups launched. So that means uh, at the multinational corporation level, some in the recent years, some large multinational corporations have set up its innovation center in China. The center is an open innovation platform, which is able to open not only to China, but also to the global participants. So if you have some good ideas or some prototypes with or some good projects with interest to work with some multinational companies. So you can work with some large multinational companies innovation platform in China. Okay, the next slide. And this project is a bilateral international technology transfer program between Chinese most and its counterpart in UK. The name it's called UK China Open Innovation Exam Program. At the UK side, the University of Bradford team, they are focused on life science and health tech. At the China side, different regional at the regional level, different partners are helping this University of UK to organize different workshop. I know in Guangzhou and Guangzhou municipality invested 8 million pounds towards a proof of concept program at the Guangzhou diagnostic workshop. Out of a few rounds pitching, roadshow, and matchmaking, they generated 7 joint projects with 1.1 million pounds proof of concept funding. And as a result, we see 7 startups established at the Bio Island at the in Guangzhou municipality. So this is a bilateral program. I think that will be another approach for the European participants to join. So if you have interest to join the China Innovation System ecosystem, you can review some release or some course by the China National Ministry like the MOST and some MIIT or other ministries. So it will be a very good approach for you to join at this kind of approach. It will be very helpful for very early stage technologies or some very early stage idea of innovation to get access to China market. Okay, the next slide. Yes, this one is academic industrial partnership program between Spain and China. And this is a joint partnership program. The Center for the International Technological Development, CDTI, is a public business entity. It's answering to the Ministry of Economy and Competitiveness. CDTI will grant financing to the approved China-Spain joint projects. The minimum budget, it's about it's nearly 200 euros. And also they have some soft credit and advanced payments possibilities and other incentives like a stretch of non-refundable to up to 30%. At the China side, the Torch Program Center of MOST is responsible for its own funding service. And in the past years, I witnessed a few projects established. Usually, every year we have 6 or 5 projects established, and this is a very good academic industrial partnership program. And the main business model will be Spanish SMEs work with a Chinese academic plus a Chinese SMEs or a Chinese industrial company together. So that will be very helpful, and for the Spanish SMEs to develop a prototype which will be able to satisfy a real request by Chinese market. Okay, next slide. So, and in the recent years, we know the Belt and the Road initiatives. Actually, under the National Belt and the Road initiatives at the Beijing municipal level, Beijing municipality has released a 3-year action plan since 2018, and we see a few keywords related to the STI. International events, STI and the Zhongguancun Science Park, and trading service. I listed here a few keywords and key funding or grant programs like cities network along the Belt and the Road countries, including the China CEC 17+1 major meeting and international organizations Beijing office establishment. Also, the action plan can facilitate the collaboration with international academics, universities, and think tanks. The action plan will also facilitate working with IASP. We know IASP, it's an International Association of Science Park based in Malaga of Spain, and helping IASP to establish the International Zhongguancun Science Park and incubator along the Belt and the Road countries. That means Zhongguancun Science Park will be able to go out of China to set up an international Zhongguancun Science Park or international Zhongguancun incubators along the Belt and the Road countries. Also, we see some international joint R&D programs in the joint laboratories. Major national science and technology infrastructure will be open to the Belt and the Road countries. And also, we have the International Co-Incubation and the Technology Transfer Program and FinTech. We know Beijing and Shanghai now is engaged in FinTech and professional service innovation demonstration zone establishment. So that's a very brief, idea of the Belt and the Road 3-year action plan in Beijing. Okay, the next slide. And this slide will talk about the International Co-Incubation Project, which is sponsored by the Beijing Municipal Science and Technology Commission, and also that's my responsibility. And this project is launched in the late 2017 in Beijing. Up to date, we have over 80 ICM members and nearly 200 partners over the world. So what's the difference between members and the partners? Only one difference. as members, we have a landing pad at the Beijing, in the downtown of Beijing, at the ICR headquarters. And the landing pad will be able to provide a hot desk for the international members when access to China in the very beginning. The mission of ICR is to connect the international research, technology, incubator, and business organization to China market and facilitate their partnerships with Chinese STI actors and help them to build up an international ecosystem. Also, the ICI in the recent years is acting as a bridge to support Chinese companies and investors to go out. So I think that will be a new trend for ICI project. In the recent years, we are representing more and more Chinese large companies and investors with interest to go global. So ICI is a both-way platform. It's not only bring in, but also go out. Okay, next. And that's what I'm the general secretary of ICI. So we set up this secretariat at Beijing, at Beijing state-owned company. We set up office here. The office means 761 CoSpace. The 761 CoSpace is an international technology transfer service platform, and it's also an international incubator and business development supporter. It is wholly sponsored by Beijing Electronics Holding Group, which is second largest state-owned corporation in Beijing. Okay, the next slide. So we know technology transfer requires a very good ecosystem. Actually, we need licensee, investor, and industrial supply chain. So we work with our mother company, Beijing Electronics Holding Group. And this group is ranking the top 500 in China. And we have different, focused area like display, smart system, smart medicine, intelligent equipment, apparatus, semiconductor, IC, and new energy, and also digital content. So that will be our industrial sponsor, and in the meantime, that will be the potential licensee and the investor for our technology transfer partner. Next. And besides the industrial sponsor, we also have a very strong, venture capital and the private equity partners ecosystem. For the early stage technologies and for some like some European startups, I think you need very strong, you need investors, and you need the venture capitals to facilitate your early stage and your prototype to be commercialized. Okay, next. Next slide. And yes, this is the open day of ICI project. So at the open day, we organized a workshop and also we opened the landing pad. Until today, we have signed 12 international organizations and the companies to moving the landing pad. We provide them a hot desk when they come to Beijing anytime. They can use day by day or hour by hour or week by week. Okay, next slide. As a government-sponsored project, we organize different annual meeting, and bring the scientists, entrepreneurs, companies, and investors to work together and to sit together to share with their experience and insights and to organize different roadshow and the project pitching with the local venture and the local industrial companies. So that's our annual meeting in Tianjin in 2018. Okay, next slide. And that's the annual meeting just took place in the late of by the end of May this year. And this year annual meeting, we focused on one sector is smart medical and smart health. So ICI projects will be more and more focusing on very specific area and to generate ideas and to bring the bring the innovative actors to partner together. Okay, next. Yes, and also we are contracted by some Chinese government like the Beijing municipality and the Ministry of Science and Technology to organize some large international technology transfer conference. At the conference, we organize different workshops and roundtables. And also we organize the different B2B events. Next slide. Next slide. Yes, at this B2B event, okay, please, previous slide. Yes, at this kind of B2B events, it's on a very daily basis took place in ICI headquarters. So this event, we see, the 7 universities from Pennsylvania, they came here and then we organized the one-on-one meeting for them. Next slide. Okay, so I can give you a few examples of the successful case since ICI founding. So based on a VIP membership based, we provide this Japanese company a networking and a B2B service. So we help them to license its copyright to iQIYI and help them to sign an exclusive digital content supply agreement with Xiaomi VR machine. Next slide. And this is another case, and this company also come from Japan. No, previous, yes. This is a pigment dispersion technology transfer and commercialized in Zhejiang province. So we help them to connect with the end user in China, which is a brother company of 761 Codespace and ICI. So BOE is the largest display manufacturer in the world, not only in China, and it's in the world. So it is usually very hard for an international company to get access to BOE, but we help them. So that's a ICI project. It help our international partner companies to get in touch with the executives of BOE. So that will be very helpful for you to understand the real request of BOE and let you to understand the conditions and the specific requirements of BOE. So that's what we are doing. Next slide. Yes, this is another case from Canada. It is a muscle oxygen wearable device. When it came to China, it's in a very early stage. They just came here with a prototype. So they need investor to help them to commercialize this prototype and to set up their workshop and set up their assembly line in China. So we help them act to raise 20 million RMB from Bank of China's construction bank and at the pre-A series. And as a result, they set up their office in Shenzhen and Beijing. So in that case, we help them. We act as a financial advisory service, service provider. Okay, next slide. And we are managing different projects in the recent years, like some, a surgical robot from Austria, and we help them to license to China. Now we have helped this Austrian company to set up direct dialogue with at least 2 venture capitals. And also we are helping a Lithuania community-driven insurance solution company to partner with in a financial sector in China. Not only bring in, we are representing some large Chinese companies with interest to develop the European market, like Yingguan Dental Laboratory. We are helping this company to set up the direct dialogue with the partners in Estonia and Slovenia. And Yingguan Dental Laboratory can invest the working capital and its own equipment with its own IP to set up JV in European market. Next slide. And also we are now engaged in the fintech area. The fintech technology is very sensitive in China. Sometimes they required it is necessary to be approved by some regulator, by some by some Chinese like Bank of China and some regulatory agencies. So we can help them to set up a fintech regulatory sandbox. The sandbox here means incubator. Okay, next. And then the last, but not the least, I want to give all the European participants some tips. The first tip is guanxi. The second is standing on the shoulders of giants. The concept of guanxi in China cannot be easily explained in English, but essentially it relates to a very special type of relationship in which individuals support and promote each other to other individuals or organizations, forming a network which can help both the professionals and the personal aspects of their lives. Many guanxi relationships are made during the training stages of researchers' life at school and university, but they may also be made later in life based on their individuals have the same hometown or some other share commons, including the extended families. Guanxi means a Chinese personal or private networking. Without guanxi, it can be extremely difficult for a researcher to receive funding or even be able to network and meet the new collaborators in China. But with guanxi, you will be standing on the shoulders of giants. So your partner in China must be equipped with guanxi, and then you can expect more opportunities in China. That's it. I will be very happy to share with my knowledge and my experience and insights with you.
Okay, thank you very much, Mr. Xia, for your presentation in this session. It's very insightful and useful, especially for European companies to know about the innovation activities in China, and also the tips as well. Thank you very much. For all the participants, we will share the presentation after the webinar, and also now we have to move on to the next session, and I received some question, but we will hold it until the end of the session for the question and answer session. I hope it is fine. So now I will give the floor to Mr. Richard Deng from SPI China to give his presentation. Richard, are you there?
Hi, Mata. Yes, I'm ready. Can you hear
Okay.
me?
Yes, yes. Please go on, Richard.
Okay, shall I start?
Yes.
Okay, thank you, Mata. Good morning, everyone. This is Richard from SPI China. I'm going to talk a little bit about the culture in China, particularly the business culture in China, how to do related those issues, cultural issues related with doing business in China. Next slide, please. Okay, so when we talk about China, we know China is a very big country. As you can see from the map, it's a big country with quite a lot of people. But it's definitely China is not a single market. You cannot see China as something very similar everywhere. And from this map, you can see in terms of GDP per capita, it's quite diversified in different regions. At the moment, still those regions, the big cities like Beijing, Shanghai, Guangzhou, Shenzhen, all those east parts of China are more well-development. The GDP is higher, and the GDP per capita is also higher than the other most other regions in China. So the market, of course, is different, and also the culture is a little bit different. Even the language, mostly in Beijing, north part of China, people speak Mandarin. But in Shanghai, local people, they have the local language in Shanghai, and also in Guangzhou and Shenzhen, particularly in Guangzhou, they have the local language, they speak the Cantonese. Next slide, please. Here you can see those are the most important 4 cities in China. Normally we call them kind of first tier cities. They have the more population than the rest of cities. In terms of economy, they are more well developed, and also in some science, technology, innovation, also very strong. In terms of international cooperation, they are also very active and more open to the West people. Next slide. But again, except for those most important 4 cities, there are many more cities. Normally we call them second tier or third tier cities. They also have many people and a lot of industry parks, many industry high-tech companies, many universities and research institutes. So they are also very important cities in China in terms of economy, R&D, and innovation. So if I suggest, if you come to China, except for those 4 important big cities, if you have more time, you have a chance, definitely you need to visit some other secondary cities. Here you can see, for example, the Suzhou and the Wuxi, those 2 cities close to Shanghai in the Yangtze River are very important. And also in the west north part, the west south part of China, Chengdu, also developing very fast in the past recent years. Next. Well, I'll just give you an overview picture about China, what's going on nowadays. As you may know, now the economy is not very good. It's a little bit slowed down, although still growing fast in terms of GDP. Maybe this year, maybe around 6%, still higher than most European countries. But the Chinese government is trying to adopt kind of new policies, and for example, the supply side reform, and to further stimulate the economy development. Try to encourage import, not just export to the other countries by cutting tariff. And next week in Shanghai, we will have the second version of the China Import Fair. This is a very important fair, and many international companies will be there. So encourage Chinese companies, Chinese people to buy from all over the world, not just sell to the world. And also try to invest to outside China, not just attractive FDI to Chinese market. Overall, I try to have more openness to the world, not in terms of region, not just in the East Coast region, but to all of the other regions in China. And not just for the manufacturing industry, but to all service sectors open to the international players. And now China and Europe are negotiating the investment agreement. It is expected to have more service sector will open to European companies with less limitation. And in terms of legal and the regulation system and frame conditions, China is trying to take the same system and the world, have more kind of protection or IP, and to encourage foreign companies, particularly high-tech companies, to set up in China. So overall, try to change China from invest and export driven economy to kind of innovation driven economy by further opening to the world. Next. Well, let's back to the Chinese culture, particularly the business culture in China. For most Western people, Chinese culture is quite different compared with the European business culture. Here, just a few examples. For example, in China, most people should be addressed by a title and their last name, not the first name. For example, if the last name is Zhang and his title is kind of a manager or director or something, normally you call kind of a Zhang Zong. Zong means kind of a general manager or something like that. And for the first meeting with Chinese people, normally try to stick to the safe subjects such as kind of hobbies, weather, your hometown, something general about China and about your countries, to avoid talking about some political issues and other issues too personal. And there's a very interesting say that Chinese people do not like to say no. In this case, if they say no to other people, they feel it's not good a way to treat other people. At same say, they don't like people to say no to themselves. In this case, it's kind of they move their face. But yes, some Chinese people say yes, or good, or okay, but they don't agree, particularly when you first meet with Chinese company. You talk about something, you offer something, they say, okay, good. It does not necessarily mean they agree everything what you told them, particularly for the first meeting. They just try to be polite to say good, okay, instead of saying no, to refuse you directly. Next. Next slide, please, Mata. May I move by myself?
Yes, you can, I guess, teacher.
Okay, thank you. Oh, no. The previous one? Okay, thank you. So when you arrange a meeting, it is advisable to provide the Chinese company with all details, the object of the meeting, the topics to be discussed, and the participants from your company, and also the position, the title of those people from your company. It's also very important for Chinese companies. And be on time, arrive the location, double check the meeting address in advance, and also to have your business cards. If possible, you could have the Chinese business cards. So it's easy for the Chinese company to remember and pronounce your name. Normally, we receive the business card from the Chinese people. Maybe hold on a few minutes and take a look. Next. Okay. Well, there are some other very interesting differences between Chinese culture and Western culture. For example, when eating and drinking, mostly Chinese people prefer kind of hot water or hot fruit, but many West people prefer cold water. Normally, for example, for the West people come to the second tier or third tier city or small town in China, sometimes you are not able to find the cold beer. They offer the beer in normal temperature. Next, please. Okay. And in terms of lunch or dinner, normally Chinese people prefer have kind of a sitting lunch or dinner. People sit together around the table. That's very Euro and particularly for official business dinner. Normally, if the first business meeting goes well, so they would like to invite you for a dinner in a restaurant, your next restaurant, and you may drink with the Chinese people together. But mostly for Western people, for they normally have more kind of networking lunch or dinner, not kind of a sitting lunch or dinner. For some business big events in China, where they have the either lunch or dinner, normally they offer kind of a sitting dinner or lunch. But in the large city like Beijing or Shanghai or Shenzhen, sometimes they also offer a kind of a Western style lunch or dinner. Next. Well, in China, the leader or the boss is very important everywhere. When you take the photo, when you sit for lunch or dinner, normally there's a special place for the boss. Sometimes in Europe also as well, but not particularly very important like in China in such cases. Next. Well, we'll talk with Chinese people, particularly the first time. Many Chinese people don't talk something directly. They prefer to talk something indirectly. Normally, they don't directly express their point, but prefer to say in a more indirect way. So sometimes it reads kind of confused for West people. So that's why it needs time to have more meeting with Chinese company to better understand them, what's really behind what they talked about. Next. And this is the keyword again, Guanxi, as Ms. Xia just mentioned. This is very important in China doing business. It's about personal relationship, but sometimes it's more than that. So basically, to do business in China, you start to build a relationship by trusting each other. Trust is very important. I think it's same in both Western countries and China. Particularly in China, normally people prefer to have more kind of a informal conversation, dinner or lunch together to know each other better, to understand each other, and try to build kind of trustful relationship before doing serious business together. And the Chinese market is also very, very competitive in many different sectors. So be prepared to have a low margin for your first deal, or sometimes even no margin, in order to approach the Chinese market. And also in terms of business cooperation with Chinese company, to be flexible in order to adapt to different situations in different regions and different Chinese companies. And respect each other. It's same for both Chinese and West people. So start from trust and try to build good friend relationship, and then move forward for your business to build kind of a long-term partnership, win-win situation with Chinese companies. It takes time. Next. Well, sometimes there are kind of a bad signals. You have to be carefully. For example, if a company wants you to move very, very fast, offer you a very low price than the market average. So be carefully in this case. Also take time to check their website, check their contact details, check their Chinese website, English website, and maybe to call the company the fixed line to double check everything in detail to make sure this is a reliable partner. Next. And also to check other financial issues of the Chinese company, bank account, the invoice title of official registration documents, and all those details to see if there is any issue or any problem. Next. In summary, it is a very complicated market in China. But when you first time come to China, you have some idea you want to do business in China. So make sure you do some homework before you really go inside the Chinese market. Make a good start is very important. The opportunities are there, but also quite a lot of different challenges and difficulties. You need to carry out your market research. Sometimes you need help from the independent service provider or consulting company, or talk with the people you know who already has some experience about China, who could also provide you reference to some Chinese companies they know. And also check the Chinese regulations to make sure you can fulfill all those requirements of the Chinese standards and conformity assessment requirements. And also Chinese language is very important. If you have in-house Chinese, you have staff in-house who can speak Chinese, it's a big plus. And your IP, make sure you have strategy to protect your IP. There's another organization funded by the Commission called EU SME IPR Help Desk. They could advise your IP strategy in China, and it's free. So it's good to contact with them. Next. In the end, I would like to share with you about a very interesting tour organized by Enrich in China in next month. So basically, Enrich in China is a project funded by the European Commission with Horizon 2020 to support European innovators, including SMEs, startups, and research in approach the Chinese market. SBI is the coordinator of Enrich in China. So we are going to organize this Enrich matchmaking tour to China in the week of November 11. We're going to visit two cities, Chengdu and then Shenzhen. These are two very interesting and active cities in China. We will participate very interesting fair, EU-China Business Technology Corporate Fair in Chengdu, and then another high-tech fair in Shenzhen, also very important, interesting fair in China. So the participants will have a chance to visit the two fairs and also have a chance to present themselves to the potential Chinese counterparts. Next. So here's just a draft agenda. Now we are working to have a more detailed agenda, and will be available very soon. So if you are interested in joining this tour, please feel free to contact with us. We welcome you to join with us for this tour in November. Thank you very much for your attention. I hope it's helpful for your doing business in China. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Richard, for the very interesting and insightful presentation about doing business in China, including the business ethic and other useful information. That's very important, especially also with the IP protection that We can also collaborate with other European funded project for that. So we already received, before we finish, we received one question. I think it will be, can be addressed to Mr. Xia.
Yes.
There is one in question in the chat box. It is for European companies, what are the top 3 things to do and not to do to join the Chinese innovation program?
Okay. I think first of all, the to do or not to do is first of all, you need to check your research. You need to check your research area or your business activity or your business area, which is listed already on the incentive program or the program or not yet. For example, we are now, the Central Chinese Party is now engaged in blockchain-related technology commercialization. So you can check what you are doing is related or not related. The first priority. And not to do is if your project has nothing to do with China market request, you'd better give up. Because when you come to China, and I think your expectation is to develop China market to get the orders from clients, to get investment from investors. So your project must be in line with the real request of China market.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Shah. And
Thank you.
the one to how your suggestion for the European companies to innovate with the Chinese market?
My suggestion is first of all is to very get a local partner, which will be helpful for you to understand a real picture of China market and help you to get in touch with the key contacts of your target market or niche market.
Mhm.
And the local partner will be able to help you to uh, partner with the target clients.
Mhm.
But who would be the qualified local partner? As I mentioned in my slides, the partner must be equipped with local network. In Chinese, it is 关系. That's it.
All right, very much.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Xia. I
Thank you.
will give, okay, there is one question, another one. To Mr. Xia, you mentioned several times the cluster and cluster cooperation. Is there a
Yeah.
contact point for clusters in China? How can the European companies identify this cluster contact point?
Oh, that's a very good question. In China's business culture, we science park or clusters, they will speak loud. They will speak a very big, a very big. They will describe a very big picture, and they will say, "Okay, I have biomedicine, I have electronics, I have ICT, blah blah blah." So when you come to China, when you come to China for the first time, you meet one or two clusters, you will see, oh, this is very good. The second one is also not bad. But if you travel more and spend more days in China, you will meet more clusters. You will find you will find all their voice the same. They everywhere they have the same voice. It's everywhere they have ICT and they have biomedicine. So it's very hard for you to identify which cluster will be engaged in or will be good at which specific sector. In this
Mhm.
case, a public platform like EUSME, like Enrich Project, like ICI, like you know, we what we can do is we can help you to identify which one is specialized in biomedicine, which one is focusing on the smart device, and but you have to. I think in that case, what I can we will help you is just to give you a very basic knowledge. If you would like to understand more, you have to pay something. This is a consultant service. That's it. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Xia. It will then also correlate with the last question from our participant about how can we find a potential local partner if they have no network yet. So it's for the very first beginning and very first establishment when they don't have any network yet. What would you suggest? So as you mentioned, we can use the services, the background services from Enrich in China and ICI.
Yes.
That's a good start. And then what are other things that you can suggest?
Yes, they just share with me their requests and their profiles and let me know what kind of projects they are managing and what is their main business activities. I think I can make sure I will come back to them with my comments, with my suggestions. Of course, that's in the first it's free. Never mind. Yes.
Okay, very well, Mr. Xia, many thanks for that. I will give one more last chance for any participant. If you still have a question, either to Mr. Xia or to Richard regarding doing business in China. Otherwise, we already a little bit behind the schedule, but I would like to thank everyone for the still being with us. Um, Okay, I think there is no more questions at the moment, and we also received good response feedback from participants for the very nice and well presentation for both Mr. Xia and Richard. Thank you very much for that. If there is no other questions after this webinar, we will send you a feedback survey of this webinar as well. Please be in touch with us. We really appreciate your feedback and response, and please be in touch with the Cubin project, with Enrich in China, and also with the ICI or Mr. Xia. We will send all the presentation slides that we have today, and also further informations. You can directly contact Mr. Xia or Richard or myself. Again, thank you very much. Mr. Xia, Richard, is there any last word from you?
And we look forward to work all of our European partners and companies, European organization. We can help you and we can facilitate your China market access. Trust me.
Thank you very much, Mr. Xia. Richard, thank you so much. Goodbye, everyone. See you
Bye.
next time, and I
Yeah.
Thank you. Hope to see you in China. Thank you. Bye bye.
Thank
Bye-bye.
you. Bye bye.